Assalamu alaikum.
When a woman is taking care of a baby, at the same time she's taking care of the husband, at the same time she is cooking, at the same time Facebooking, at the same time watching TV. Men cannot do that. Obviously, you want to do one thing at a time. But this is something that Allah has given to women. They are multitasking. In our communities, trust me, a lot of people have issues, psychological issues we don't know.
From Allah, Alhamdulillah, your mercy is great.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العزيز الحكيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. First and foremost, we give sincere thanks to Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us and blessing us this much to be able to even come together in this particular program. So far, I can say it's one of the most important programs that we expect to have it every now and then for our community and the society. And having our sheikhs with us, I believe they are much more qualified to speak at this stage than some of us. But being students of knowledge, I think we will start to share there's some ideas, Islamic dialogue as we call it. We'll start to share some ideas, and we hope that inshallah when our scholars come, they will make things clearer. So students of knowledge will start before our scholars will take the stage. No doubt when we look at issues, current issues in our community, and I will want to highlight this particularly because of the topic or the theme that we have for this particular gathering. Now, looking at main issues we have in our society, or if I should call it our Zongo communities, where we have the predominant Muslims, we are witnessing a whole lot of cases regarding we are witnessing a whole lot of cases in our youth when it comes to smoking, all sort of antisocial behaviors, and all sort of criminal activities. And of course, in our community, whenever there is something happening in a particular area, and it happens that the name mentioned is quote and unquote, I wouldn't say a Muslim name, I rather say an Islamic or Arabic name, we attribute the person to our Zongos, and then we start to see all kinds of things. I will want to highlight and discuss or bring this matter forth for discussion. And I think based on our studies and analysis, the main source of our issues comes from our marriages. And let me go back to the family. We happen to have all sort of a number of marriages, I can say, in our communities. But let me ask one question, all right? Just one question to all of us here. This is an experience I gathered throughout my rounds in the world, particularly Malaysia, Indonesia, and some of these Southeast Asian countries. Who among us has ever got or received a training that we call a marriage course before you go forward to get married? Let me see by hands if there is anyone among those who are married, if anyone has ever received a course called marriage course before you move further to get married? Obviously, I think so far I don't know, but I think it's going to be no one here because it's not our doing, our thing in Ghana. In Ghana here, there are things we don't discuss. You are expected to know it from nowhere. And you are expected to just be an excellent, an expert in it. Yet, these are, brothers and sisters, some of the main issues that lead to us having some of our brothers and sisters to be wayward or misguided in a way. So I would want to highlight some things that perhaps if you give a look at is going to help us. Issues with marriage before a person goes into marriage, and I'm looking at the Malaysian case, all right? A person goes for a particular training and there are several things we look at. Now first among those, when we look at the case of the Sharia, we will need to know before a person, let's say, gets into marriage or even to have family, we need to know and understand what the Sharia says particularly about marriage and what the Sharia say about raising up children. Mostly, our scholars are doing their best, but this is what in the research area we say there is a gap. There's a research gap. All right, we tend to concentrate so much on something else and we leave this aside. So I will want to highlight it so that our chefs can help us in our dialogue and our discussion. The issue with marriage, when we look at the perspective of the Sharia, there are so much that a lot of us are unaware. And we tend to live in our families with our wives and our husbands, in our, whether it's in nuclear or extended families, we are divorced and we are living in a divorced marriage. I don't know whether the term is a new term, because even for myself, I don't understand it. Right? You are living as a husband and wife, but you guys have divorced a long time ago because of things that you don't know that we are doing in our marriages. The scholars will tell you in Sharia, they said there are some things that joking with it is serious, and the seriousness of it is also serious. That's what it says, the scholars say. You joke with it, it becomes serious. I mean, it's taken. What are you saying? Oh, I'm just joking. And you tell your wife, hey, I've divorced you, just go to your house. And people ask, oh, I was just joking. According to the scholars in Sharia, they said, when you look at fiqh ziwaj, it's considered divorce. Many of our families, our parents, brothers and sisters are doing these acts. Now, when we go for this particular training, for instance, when it comes to the issue of Sharia, when we look at the rights and responsibilities of a husband or a wife, we are made to understand. This is just one among three. There are three things that when you joke with it, even the joke of it is considered serious. And the seriousness of it is also considered serious. So you cannot just say, oh, I wasn't serious, I was just joking. These issues, we need to revisit it. I wanted to delve much more in this area, but even before I started speaking, I received a note. Yeah, it's a love letter from the chairman. Right, reminding me about the time. So I'm going to go strictly by that. Good. Let me move on to the next area. Now the next area I will want to highlight is the issue of psychology of men and women. And this is a very, very serious and important area that we need to understand in handling ourselves and our relationship with our brothers and sisters, even in our marriages, even with our parents. And for parents in taking care of their children. And this is where if we get it wrong, then things start. Now in the area of psychology, we are made to understand that every human being, as we are all seated here, there are two main organs in our bodies that makes us who we are. Now anything tampering with these organs in our bodies makes us someone else. If you should get mine and replaced with Sheikh Kishk, and take from Sheikh Kishk and replace to me, we become exactly different people. And these two organs, the scholars will call it the brain and the heart. And then the brain and the heart are two most important organs that makes us who we are, in how we think and how we feel. In the area of psychology, we will say that we're looking at the cognitive, as in how you think, and looking at the affect, issues relating to emotions, moods, and experience. That comes from the heart. If these two are consistent, then we're going to have a person to be very normal. And if someone is trying to tell a lie, I'll discuss that later. Now let's look at the issues of gender. Gender differences have different ways of our cognitive function as well as our affect or emotional function. Okay? And when we look at men as against women, there is a famous hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he mentioned in a hadith. He says, when he spoke about women, and there's some hadiths, or kama qal, he says, la qisata aqlin wa din. When he talks about women, that women are less in terms of aql, which is the intellect, the cognitive function, as well as deen, in the religion. And some scholars, particularly from the West, started saying, look at who you call a prophet is very insensitive of women and is insulting women. Now here comes a research that was carried out by one of our great scholars in Islam, Hassan al-Bashir. Now he made a research which actually supports what we have in psychology in a way. And we also have verses in the Quran and as well as ahadith that support it. Now psychologists will tell you, or biologists, when we look at the issues of the function of brain and the heart, they said that in men have about 70% of the control of the cognitive function in the brain and about 30% in the heart, making it 100%. The direct opposite for women. Out of, we have 70 here for women in the heart and 30 in the cognitive function. Now when a person gets married, we are made to understand in the hadith that when a person gets married, he has received the other half of his religion. I hope you are familiar with this hadith. Now what is the other half? So this scholar says the other half is when you get married in a very comfortable, normal home, not house, home, marital home. You have 100% brain and 100% heart. Growing up a kid in this manner is going to help the person cognitively and in terms of affect. And when you have a divorce, this is where one of the reasons, even in the hadith, even though some scholars say it's da'if, but most of the scholars will say in Jabir, that says that divorce is among abghad al-halal inda Allah, is one of the hateful halal on the side of Allah, which is to say that divorce, even though it's halal, is not strongly encouraged, and we should do whatever it takes to help to sustain or maintain a particular marriage. Whenever there is a divorce and you have a child and the child is growing from this broken home, child goes either with the father or with the mother, and this is where our zongo issues come in. Now when the child goes with the father, he tends to develop much more of one function compared to the other. So if he goes with the father, like it happens in most of our cases, he develops more of the cognitive and very less of the affect. So a child will grow up no emotion. And imagine a person with very less or no emotions. Any aspect of crime, he does it without sympathy. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbid us. Now when you look at the opposite, it's also very true. When the child goes with a woman, let's say after divorce, it tends to develop much more of an affect compared to the cognitive. Now in these two, within these two, if a person goes for a particular training before you get married, we get to understand that when you are married with your wife, there is a way women think that men can never understand. And there is a way men think that women can never understand. But with training, a bit of a training, we come to realize that being united does not mean you become myself or I become you. But being united is all about understanding our differences and agreeing to that difference and attempt to live with the difference. Knowing that you are this way, I understand the way you behave, I understand the way you think and feel. I go by that way. This is what we expect in every marriage. Issues come in and we tend to call it our divorce and tends to lead or mislead our children Because most times the men expect women to think the way they think, or women expect their husbands to also think the way they think. Based on this, let's look at how women think and how men think. Now, the brain, or the human brain, the organ, we understand that this organ, the function is to solve complex issues and simplify it in an understandable term. And the heart, according to some scholars, it has got double the function of the brain in terms of memory. And that's why in the Quran Allah speaks directly with the heart. Allah says, Alahum qulubun la yafqahuna biha. Allah speaks directly with the heart. Don't they have hearts with which they think, or with which they have an intellect to feel? So people will ask a question: how can Allah relate issues with thinking and cognitive abilities with the heart? And the scholars will tell you, because the heart actually functions just like the brain. In other cases, the heart starts doing things before the brain comes in. And this is the case where, even in our own families, knowing that women are much more affective compared to men, anytime we have issues that requires sympathy, we tend to start from there, and then thinking will come in. And then both this affect and the thinking, we put our whatever we do in action. And men and women think differently. Men and women think completely differently. The brain can concoct ideas that the heart cannot agree with. I don't know whether you understand what I mean. I don't want to say that the brain lies a lot, all right, but allow me to say it in a very, very formal term. All right, the brain can generate ideas. The heart cannot do that. And whenever a person is lying or is trying to lie, what will happen is that there is inconformity between what your brain is saying and what your heart is feeling. So you start to see that the biologists, psychologists will tell you there's going to be a secretion of a hormone in your body, and this hormone will lead you to do all sort of actions. Start to scratch your head, and some people will do all sort of things, and scratching a place that is not even itchy. You know, looking here, and sometimes the nails is itchy, is because of this hormone, because you are trying to lie. And this is how, actually, one of the areas why they're able to create lie detectors. The brain function can be very complex, and it can, quote and unquote, it can lie so much compared to the heart. And that's why men are very good in, I'm trying to get the right word, not really lying per se, but men are very good in creating ideas. Yes, let me put it that way, very positive. Creating ideas compared to women. And women, when it comes to issues of lying, believe me, our brothers are not that expert in lying. You know, she tells you the lie this morning, just wait 3 hours later, ask the same question, the truth will come out. All right? And now, why am I saying all these things? It depends on how we relate in our families. When you have an issue, for instance, with the brain will think strictly, think deeply for a long time, and it solves its problems. Difference comes in with the heart. When you have so much information or issues in your heart, the only way we solve it is by opening up and share. And when we have related issues like this in our families, we expect that the man mostly will keep quiet in trying to solve the problem. And the wife will be asking him, why am I talking to you and you don't mind me? I'm talking to you for the whole day, see, he doesn't mind me. You are complicating his issues because he's trying to think and get a solution. But men think to solve problems. And the opposite is for women. They will want to talk to solve problems. So we say that men solve problems by thinking and females solve problems by talking. But by talking doesn't mean just talking, but they want to share. And that's why you are called a husband. When your wife has an issue, you understand she just wants to share. Let me be very, very careful here. She does not want your solution. When women have issues, they don't want solutions. Just want someone to listen So when you listen and she starts complaining, in my office, someone do like this, like that, they're kicking, oh really, she did that? Let her talk more. And we even apply this in human resource. In human resource management, when you have employees in the office, how you deal with male employees must be very different from how you deal with female employees. Female employees are much more expressive. When they have issues, they will want to share it. Shutting them up wouldn't solve the problem. It only means the problem has been postponed. So the only way we solve problems in our marital homes is for us husbands or our brothers to have time for our women to share their issues. And not only that, for fathers to have time for their daughters to share. And this is where, if as a father, you are very busy, like we always say, busy doing nothing. We are very busy. As a husband, you are very busy. As a brother, you are very busy to listen to the sisters. What they will do is that they will have someone else somewhere to share the ideas. And if that someone somewhere is not misguided, then you have lost a sister. And this is what happens in our communities, brothers and sisters. When we go for instance, a particular training in marriage, you are taking all these short courses to understand. If you have a son or a daughter who comes to you as early as year 6, they come to you asking for issues or asking for some problems that they face, don't shut them up. We do it in our community. Kaliba Kinki, you just keep quiet and go. You talk a lot. Now she keeps quiet, but mind you, she will speak with someone else somewhere. And that someone else somewhere, if God is not on your side and the person is not guided well, then you lost a brother or a sister. And this is one of the issues that happens in our societies, having some of our brothers going into all sort of smoking and all kind of activities which is not encouraged. And our sisters as well getting wayward. Because as parents or as husbands or as brothers, we do not give them the necessary time to listen to what they do. And this is what psychology is telling us. I'm not the one saying this. If you go in psychology, when we apply some of these theories in a human resource, when you apply some of these theories, even in psychiatry, you get to understand a lot of issues that people have is because no one is there to listen to them, because issues in the heart you need to share. Issues in the brain you need to think. And men are known to be very good thinkers, 70%. And women are known to be very good feel. They have this emotion with which both of them, and by the way, let me cite this example. Both this brain and the heart, Allah did not give it to us for equality, like the West are, propagating. It's not about equality, it's about equity. There are things that I do which a woman may not, my wife will not be able to do that. And there are things that a wife can do which men are not expected to be able to do it. For instance, a simple example as we have. How many of them guys here can live with a baby for the whole night? Just one night. One night. Your wife says, I'm not feeling well, just stay with the baby for one night until morning. You'll be very surprised the complaints that will come up later. It can be a whole book. But women will do that in a very, very simple term. Why? Because Allah has given that to them. When it comes to, for instance, the issue of, the issue of taking care of the baby, again, let me cite the same example. When a woman is taking care of a baby, at the same time, she's taking care of the husband, at the same time, she is cooking, at the same time, Facebooking, at the same time, watching TV. Men cannot do that. Obviously, you want to do one thing at a time. But this is something that Allah has given to women. They are multitasking. See, these are all just telling us about issues and differences between us, as in men and women. Now, some of these things, if you are not taking care of very well, so it will just happen that you just go into marriage and you don't understand even how your husband should solve issues. In our own nuclear families, when you have the father or the mother having issues, because of a child. You realize that at midnight, you come to the center, or what we call the hall. You see that the father is sitting down in the dark for the TV to watch him. No, not he watching TV. The TV is not on, but he's watching the TV at night doing this. He's thinking, trying to solve his issues. And what do you see from our mothers? In the morning, starting from the dining room to the whatever, to the living room, to the toilet, she will be just talking around the whole morning. She will talk and go around. In the evening, she will sleep nicely, because that's how she has solved her problem. She has solved the problem by talking and sharing. Men will solve it differently. Now see where the issues come in. The moment a man or a husband or a father is trying to solve a problem this way, if a wife does not understand him and how he solves his problems, that generates to a second level of an issue. The second level of an issue is that the whole day, all you do is you sit there looking at me, you don't mind anyone. What's wrong with you? You start to get angry at everybody, and the complaints come in over and over again. It will compound these issues. And what do you think will happen? Just guess, what do you think will happen? He will get frustrated and start to go out and doesn't want to come home. Let's look at the opposite. When the woman has an issue and she wants to talk and share it, you realize that our brothers will start to say, why do you like nagging so much? Some small issue, you just want to keep talking. Now, brothers and sisters, just give a person, that particular lady, 30 minutes is enough. Let her talk more. And put out the phone and the TV, everything. Eye contact with your wife. All right? Or with your sister. Eye contact. Ask her, tell me more. What's the issue? After 30 minutes, she is fine. And don't give solution, trust me. She will not want the solution. Now, in psychology, we get to understand, I don't have enough time to go through in detail. We get to understand this is how men and women may find a way to solve problems. And how do we get to bring these in our communities or in our marriages? We get to understand it better when we have a structured marriage course. And this is one thing that our society requires, it needs, but we don't have it. Let me look at another aspect. Are you coming to me?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm passing by.
All right, thank you. Let me just discuss one more issue before I go to the next. The brain and how it functions. Some of our members in our community, they have another issue we call a psychological disorder. And I remember recently talking about one of our pastors in the media who I said has a psychological disorder and he needs help. Owusu Bempa, who kept how do you call it, the doom's prophecy or something. He called himself a prophet. Anyway, so I suggested him in the media and they blew it out in the country that I said Owusu Bempa is crazy. But I didn't say he's crazy. I just said it's a mental disorder. If you want to translate it as crazy, then that's fine, because actually that's a layman term for that. So in our communities, trust me, a lot of people have issues, psychological issues we don't know, even in our own families. Some of these people with psychological issues are the ones that go out there and cause crimes. And we just think, oh, this one, they are going to be is actually a psychological disorder. The person needs help. What is a psychological disorder? How we think and how we feel as we grow up since we are children. All right? From 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old until we grow up. There are ways we change, we behave. When you get to 7 years old, we are expecting you to think and feel like a 7-year-old boy. Now, when you are 20 years old, but you think like a 7-year-old boy, this is psychological disorder. And what is psychological disorder? It's a maladaptation. Someone who is unable to adapt to the environment and think how we think. Straight to the point, there are about 10 types of personality disorders. Disorders generally are many. We have types. Let me come to personality disorders. This is what we need to study and understand in our Zongos. Personality disorders are grouped into about 10 main types. 10 main. According to the American psychological association. Now these 10 main types, I can guarantee you we have all in Zongos. Well, almost all of them. There's that type, like the Uzubempa type, we said he should come for treatment. Alright, what we call the HPD, the histrionic personality disorder. This disorder is defined as emotion and attention-seeking disorder. In our Zongos, you see them. Someone, if you don't mention their name, they are not happy. They will always do anything for someone to mention their name. In either what they say, or how they dress, or how they behave in the community. So you can see them. During Aure, someone, that person actually, male or female, will want to create a controversy. So people will get to know him. Or want to fight with someone. It's a psychological disorder. Some of them, we really need to bring the person and assess. But in our families, we don't have that particular training. So people don't really see it. We have another type we call the antisocial personality disorder. Someone who's antisocial. Alright? He consistently has very less emotion towards others. And we see it, some of them in our families. They need help. But how do we get to know even to help them? We need to interact. And we need to bring these particular, for instance, the marriage course I'm saying. So if you have a child among children, or you have a brother or a sister among the siblings, who consistently causes issues, and almost always, that one same person has issue with almost everybody at the same time. It happens, right? Do you agree with me? It does happen. Now such a person, what we do is we push him away. No, we're supposed to bring him back closer to us and help them. When you have children who are not that, I don't want to say they are bad, because basically no one is bad. It's the society that makes you bad. And how does it happen? In management, we call something self-fulfilling prophecy. Self-fulfilling prophecy is that how you take care of your own brother or a sister or a child, the person behaves to you exactly the same way. Imagine I'm wearing this particular lens. It's clear. What do I see you? I see you to be clear. If you have this one to be red color, what do you expect to see? You see in the red environment. If this is dark, how do you see it? You see it dark. Now the same way we have it in our brains. And this is our perception, how we see others. Now, if you see someone in a negative light, you react to him in the same way you see him. And when you react, in physics we say action and reaction are equal and opposite. So someone will say consistently, why are you all the time angry? Because actually you show the anger first. So the person will reciprocate the same way. We call it self-fulfilling prophecy. If you have a boy or a brother, younger brother, you put your 1 Ghana cedi and he took it. How do you say it? What do you call him? Barao, Mugunyaro, Barao. Because he took your 1 Ghana cedi. What you could have done is perhaps call him and ask him, what do you want the Ghana cedi for? I want to buy this. Okay, go and buy. But next time ask me. You have solved the problem. But when the moment you call him Barao, tomorrow, Barao, you are training Barao in your house. Because then it's a training you are given. We call it self-fulfilling prophecy. A time will come where he will automatically become that way. Because that's what you have been saying. And remember, even in our Islamic studies, we are taught that as a mother particularly, or as a father, the dua or the prayers of the father is like the dua or the prayer of the Nabi to his qawm. That dua or that prayer you say, the malaikat around will say Amin and it's taken. That's it. And if a mother say that to her own child, Barao, Mugunyaro, Barao, Mugunyaro, I want the baby Maganao. You see, you are training the person to become that exactly. And we call it self-fulfilling prophecy. Instead of this language, when we come for a training in our Zongos, we can have a marriage course where we train our brothers and sisters to always use positive language. In management, a manager is trained never to use negative language. When you come for a meeting and your company is making losses, you don't come and say, gentlemen, my company this year has registered some huge losses. The next moment you'll be fired. You're not a good CEO. A good manager or a good CEO should always be positive. Instead of saying you have losses, What will you say to make it nice? This year, our company registered not much profits. Instead of saying huge losses. Or you can just say the profits are not encouraging or not as expected. You are still talking about profit. Meanwhile, you are making losses. Now, the same thing, we apply it in our families. When a child does something wrong, don't tell him, Bara or Mugunyaro. Just tell him, you are a good boy. Good boys don't do that. With time, he will change. Let me tell you one story before I round off, even though I still have about 5 points to talk about. There was a story about, it's a Chinese story, they call it, in China. There was this mother-in-law and her daughter-in-law, and the law, fine, I don't know where the law comes from, we'll talk about that later. Now this mother-in-law, or this daughter-in-law, and the mother-in-law never meet, because I think the law is not fair. So they never meet eye to eye. So one time, the wife or the daughter-in-law went to these Boka people, right? I'm coming to them actually. So she wanted to kill the mother-in-law. So she asked the person, my mother-in-law is very wicked. I cannot just stand here. I want to make sure she is dead. Give me something. And then he gives her some chemicals. And he told her, don't worry, from now on, anything she does for you, just be quiet. Keep putting slowly in her food. Cook for her. Cook for her, put it in the food. One day she will die and you'll be free. So she started doing it. First day, she came home and she cooked. And the mother-in-law looked at her. Look at her. You want to kill me, right? You can never kill me. I won't eat your food. She kicked it. And the daughter-in-law was so furious. And she went back to the guy. And she told him, see what she did? She won't even eat my food. He said, don't worry. Cook for her again tomorrow. She will eat one day. So the following day, she did again. This time, the mother-in-law insulted her again, but the tone came down. Now the third day, there was no insult. The fourth day, the mother-in-law came and she ate the food. And the daughter-in-law was like, yes, very soon she's going to die and I'm going to be free. Now the fifth day, the mother-in-law was so nice to her. The sixth day, the mother-in-law, before she comes, the mother-in-law cooked for her. Now the seventh day, early morning, she realized, no, I don't want her to die anymore because she has changed. She has changed, right? She's not supposed to die. So let me go back to the guy and ask the guy to turn the, whatever, how do you call it? To turn it over so that she wouldn't die. Now she went to the guy and the guy said, no, it's too late. She has to die because he wanted to die. And she has taken so much of it, so she's going to die anyway. And she started crying. And the guy asked her, why are you crying? He said, she's a nice person. And he asked her, why is she a nice person now? He said, because all those while she was doing this, I didn't mind her. I was just being good to her. And you see, suddenly she has changed. And he said, okay, go and continue being good to her because what I gave you is vitamins. I actually gave you a vitamin. But I want to teach you a lesson. The lesson here, and this comes back to self-fulfilling prophecy. You see, the way she was looking at the mother-in-law was reacting the same way. This happens a lot in our families. Most of our issues in our marriages, in our parents back home, is only because we see them as difficult people. But in some cases, it's actually yourself who is a difficult person. Who is a difficult person? A difficult person is someone who doesn't want others to understand him. That's it. So if you don't want others to understand, you become a difficult person. In most cases, we are. So what I'm saying is, when we come back to our societies, issues we face with our own children, our own brothers and sisters, is because of how we behave towards them. It's because of how the environment develops them. Lastly, before my sheikh comes, is it 5 minutes? All right.
The referee is looking at his watch.
Okay.
He has a whistle in his mouth.
Great. 1 minute. Fine. Let me round up by saying the last point I want to add is that most of the time we get married only because of one thing, and all of us know it. I don't want to mention it, but since we are here as students of knowledge, we almost always shy away from this area, and this is the number one cause of our issues in our zongos. Sex issues, sexual psychology. People get married because of that, and they don't even know how to do it. So we come to see that a lot of our scholars will have issues between husband and wife. This issue will never be mentioned, but that's the source of the matter. Now, when you go for a formal training in marriage, you are trained about that. We call it sexual psychology. How to satisfy your husband, and how as a husband you satisfy your wife. If you cannot do this, and we cannot discuss it, because in our society, our culture, we call it this, it's a polychronic kind of culture as against monochronic in the West. We tend to have a polychronic culture where certain terms and certain topics are not discussed. Yet these are the same topics and issues that is actually bringing down our communities and societies. So husband and wife will have divorce because of a cat in the house. The cat has eaten his food, and that becomes an issue to the extent that it leads to divorce. But when you look at it, the cat is actually it's innocent cat. The issues are actually there. So what I'm advocating for, and I have discussed it with some of our scholars, inshallah, in this country, and we're going to round it, is to have a formal marriage course for our communities. This, inshallah, is going to help us solve our problems. And let me tell you, this is what Singapore did to solve their problems in the societies. This is what Malaysia did, and this is what Indonesia are doing. When you compare us with them, you realize that most of the crimes you talk about, we are taking reactive measures to solving problems. When the person comes and steals, go and send him to the prison, he comes back again, takes someone's goat and beat him up and kill him, that's it. The reactive measure we take is that parent who gave birth to the child, train that parent how to take care of children. First himself and how to take care of the children, and inshallah we're going to have all these issues to be minimized. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from us, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us towards the right path. Subhanakallah wa hamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Professor Naail.
Coming soon this Ramadan. Enrich your heart with a daily dose of beneficial knowledge with intriguing topics from our inspirational speakers.
Assalamu alaikum. The clouds in the skies, the rain is falling down. The rain is a mercy from Allah. The break in the clouds, the sun is shining down. The sun is a mercy from Allah. Alhamdulillah, your mercy is great. Alhamdulillah, your mercy is great. Allah, your love is great. You're the only one with me. Allah, your love is great. You're the only one with me. Alhamdulillah, Subhanallah.
Yo, they say who Allah guide, nobody can misguide, and who Allah misguide, nobody can guide. Well, I